started with a jolt, then a splash, and seconds later the silhouette of a man faded into the clear blue waters of a glamorous swimming pool. We are Eva Ma and Katie Fife, hosts and founders of the Gatsby podcast series.
Today we ask what force or magnified body resulted in the death of this character. Who is responsible for the death of Jay Gatsby? Before we start, I have to make myself clear. I am Katie Fife. I'm not a fancy reporter or an avid writer that knows it all. I'm simply just an everyday reader who wants to understand the significance of Jay Gatsby's death and how that coincides with American literature. So before we dive deep into our findings, we must literally dig into the roots of Jay Gatsby. Nick Carraway, the first-person narrator of The Great Gatsby, describes Gatsby as a self-made millionaire who never fully fit in with the poor status of his youth. He spent some time out at sea with Darren Cody, who became a father figure to Jay, and after his death, Gatsby was enlisted into the army to defend the U.S. in the Great War. During this time, he met a young, wealthy girl named Daisy Buchanan, who fell for Gatsby, and believed Gatsby was from her class in society. Ironically, his new money status was founded upon illegal bootlegging activities. Now, how does that contribute to the primary cause of Gatsby's death? Let's find out.
Do you remember the last time someone disappointed you or let you down after you established high expectations for them? Did it just completely break your heart? Of course, in reality, others are not going to ever meet up to our set expectations, and this is exactly what happened to Gatsby. His heart was so engulfed with the notion that Daisy would love him the way he loved her, that when she could not provide this love for Gatsby, he was utterly disappointed. Solid evidence is important, so undertake, for instance, this statement by Nick Carraway describing his spectacular neighbor, quote, "He wanted nothing less of Daisy than should she go to Tom and say, 'I never loved you,'" unquote. Nick is responsible for reuniting Daisy and Gatsby after 5 long years. He realized that Daisy couldn't simply abandon her societal standards and leave Tom for Gatsby. Daisy and Gatsby's relationship mirrors Tom and Myrtle's affair in that the societal rank takes priority over love, regardless of how much Gatsby cared for Daisy. However, this need for affection possibly stems back to Gatsby's youth. According to Nick, who we think is a reliable narrator, Gatsby was so deprived of love that he measured love to success and material things.
Nevertheless, Gatsby couldn't differentiate between the past and present. His plea when he states to Nick that he wishes Daisy could understand like she did 5 years prior proves that Gatsby expects to resume his relationship with Daisy without understanding that her life is more complex with time. It's apparent that even if Nick tried to relay the truth to Gatsby, Gatsby was so fixated on the past that the present was meaningless. Yet there's something peculiar about this intense falsification in that Gatsby mentally pictured him and Daisy as a perfect couple with an equally perfect life. I recently spoke with a Simon & Schuster publisher about Gatsby's elaborate dream.
Nick stated in the novel, and I directly quote, "Gatsby spoke as if Daisy's reaction was the only thing that mattered."
That's interesting, isn't it? Mainly because we as humans shouldn't live for another person, despite our emotions.
Yeah, but you do have to remember that this is more than just human nature. Daisy didn't truly love him because her selfishness overrode Gatsby's desires. I mean, she didn't even attend his funeral.
Gatsby lived fully for Daisy, and in a way, felt married to her.
It was my fault. It was my fault. This woman, she rushed out at us as if she was trying to speak to us. It all happened so quickly. It was Daisy.
Gatsby wouldn't dare leave Daisy for another woman, and he wouldn't let her take full responsibility for killing Myrtle. If Gatsby accepted this truth, he wouldn't have been considered a possible killer, and he would have lived.
In order to find out more about this American dream and fantasy that Gatsby had, I called up historian Yuri Kill to discuss the overall theme of the novel with Gatsby's death.
There's this peculiar idea of the American dream with Gatsby, in that he could have any materialistic object he wanted, as long as he had the ambition to work for it. This type of theme has been present since the 1920s, and so Jay Gatsby literally embodies this goal for every American.
But that didn't work for Gatsby's love for Daisy, right? He couldn't seem to win her over, despite all of his belongings.
Yes, and that is what's so amazing about him, is that the American dream involves having the perfect spouse and family, yet because Daisy couldn't love Gatsby the way he wanted her to, this American dream was never fulfilled by this man. By believing in this unreachable dream, Gatsby set himself up for failure once again, and would never truly be happy.
Of course, Gatsby would never be able to represent this enchanted American dream. Yet he was ultimately unsatisfied with his situation, leading to his demise and internal unhappiness. While Gatsby imagined a simple way out of the situation, Obviously, Daisy was sinking deeper into the elite East A expectations, in staying together with Tom regardless of the infidelities. Despite all of this, Gatsby had failed to comprehend that Daisy and Tom's relationship was more than just a signed marriage certificate. They had a young daughter.
Ultimately, the presence of a child complicated the situation, and Gatsby was utterly disappointed that Daisy decided on having a child with Tom instead of him. One more thing, while I was going through some audio clips between Jay and Nick, I came across this one that sparked up a good theme.
Oh, there you are. Daisy just left. She asked me to tell you. She had a wonderful time.
She didn't like it.
Oh, of course she did.
No. No, she didn't like it. She did not have a good time. I feel so far away from her now. So hard to make her understand.
You mean about the party?
The party? I couldn't care less about the party.
See, something about the truth in Gatsby's line caught my attention, where he claims that Daisy didn't like the party. While this idea of the American dream prevails in the novel, there is a concept of unsustainable perfection that Gatsby dreams of. This idea of perfection cannot be sought out by anyone because humans simply are not designed to be perfect. In this way, Gatsby basically believes that money and power override this impurity, yet not even a millionaire like Gatsby is pure. Once again, Gatsby's ideals and expectations led to his demise, death. Gatsby believed in the impossible. Mr. Wilson was deranged, so that's out of the question. Daisy was not, but she was driving. It's pretty obvious that it's not okay to kill someone and to simply not own up to it. Does that make it her fault? Some say Nick didn't act upon the situation. What about Gatsby and his biased mind? With that said, we leave the question of who is responsible for the death of Jay Gatsby for you to decide.